Today, I'm going to talk about practicing and how to get into it, what to do, how to even choose a piece. I'm going to split this up into at least 3 different videos. Today's video, I'm going to go over how to choose a piece of music or a song. And I'm also going to go over just the beginnings of practicing that music and what I would personally do and what I do when I'm learning something new. So first, I'm going to show you where you can look if you're looking for classical music. Now, if you're looking for popular music, you can do very similar. You can actually go after books that will do something very similar to what I'm doing here. So let's take a look at a couple books book series that I think would be good to help you along and help you to pick the right piece at your level. I'm only going to discuss 2 different book series. These are not the only book series that exist. This one over here is a series by Faber and Faber. They do have a method series. Their method series is called Piano Adventures. This is sort of a part of that. It's their literature series. This literature series and also Sonata and Sonatina series that you see at the bottom here are a great way of finding something at your level. So if you're not even sure what your level is, one thing to do is take the music you have learned so far and see if you can find something online that gives you like at least a generic leveling in some ways. There's a lot of places that might level it. What you could do is take one of these book series that I suggest, type that book series into Google and the piece that you're learning and see if it is even in one of the books. There's a chance it might be, it may not be. Like if you're playing something by Einaudi or Philip Glass or any modern classical composer, there's less chance of it being in these books. But you may find it somewhere to get at least a general idea of where it is. So in this book series, these are a great way of finding the right level. They don't have a lot of music per book, even though I do love this series. There's not a ton of music, but each of the literature books goes from the Baroque period up to contemporary classical. So it does give you a wide variety of music. The other series that I wanted to show you is by a guy named Keith Snell. This has even more. Each of these books is quite expansive, and there are 11 books in the series. And if you particularly like a specific style of classical music, or period, I should say, of classical music, you can, even within this series, you can find his essential piano repertoire for just Baroque or just classical or whatever. And there are a series of books for each of those. These are varieties. So these go from the 17th century to modern. It starts with the preparatory level and goes up to level 10. Now, what does that mean? I'll say prep level is going to be easy. This is beginner stuff. If you've only been playing for about a year, there's a good chance you may want to start here. If you're playing level 10, you're playing some hard stuff. So if I click on this, we're going to take a look at what the repertoire is. So here's the repertoire here, and I'll just tell you that this series of pieces would be considered, I would say, a late intermediate to early advanced level. So you're actually getting into some really hard stuff here. And I would say a lot of this is the early advanced level, to be honest. So just be careful thinking, I can do level 10. It gets pretty hard. One other comment I have about that, though, is if there is a specific piece that you want to learn and it's at a higher level than what you're ready for, it's all going to depend on you. I have had students who have said, I want to learn piece X. And I say, well, you're not quite ready for it, but you can go ahead and try it. And sometimes that works, and I'm amazed, and they learn the piece. And oftentimes the student might be just like me, and they think they can learn the piece, and they go a little bit way through it and just go, this is way too hard for me right now. It all depends on the person and how much drive you have to learn that one specific piece. So don't sell yourself short. Know that you possibly could learn something above your level, depending on how much you really want to learn it, how much you love the piece. So that's the first step, finding your level. If you want more information on finding your level, please let me know. It really can be easier if you just ask someone like me, say, hey, I'm playing these pieces. Give me, say, 3 different pieces that you have played or learned that you think you've learned pretty well. And then I can usually give you a good idea of where to look for something new. Now what I'm going to do is go into the Faber and Faber series. Reason for that is these are digital copies. I'm going to take a look at the intermediate level. I may not have mentioned this, that each of these books here will tell you the equivalent leveling system. It's more of an American leveling system where it'll say preparatory, beginner, and intermediate. And then it'll say beginner, late beginner, early intermediate, intermediate, and late intermediate. The only book that says early advanced is the Piano Sonatinas, book 4. This is a little harder. So I'm going to start at the intermediate level. This is the literature book 3. Just so you get an idea, I know this is going to be really small on the screen. If you want to see a bigger picture of the table of contents, let me know in the comments and I will post something to let you be able to see it a little bit bigger. You see it goes from the Baroque period here, classical period, and then Romantic and contemporary. Now to show how I start with the piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose something from the Romantic period that might be a little more familiar to all of you. A lot of the stuff in the Baroque period, there's a few in here that you may have heard of before, and the classical period also. I've chosen Wild Rider by Schumann. Robert Schumann wrote a book called Album for the Young. It's Opus 68. There are dozens of pieces in this book. This is one of the more famous ones out of the book. I'm only going to go over the first step again. First steps are to figure out your key, look at the time signature, and figure out how fast the goal tempo is going to be for this piece, and how to figure out what your goal tempo is. So the key signature is the part that you see right in here. I'm going to zoom in for you so you can see the beginning of this. So you see the key signature is where the sharps and flats would go. There are no sharps and flats. So what key is this? It's either C major or A minor. Now, how do we figure out what key we're in? What I like to do is look at the first and the last chord of the piece. The reason I do this is if both of those chords match, you are most likely in that key. But that chord would need to be either C major or A minor, unless we're playing in a modal key, and we're not in this case, just so you know. So the first chord of this piece is an A minor chord. Now, if you look down here, you may notice that you think, well, though that's not an A and a C, but it is. We have a treble clef sign here, so it's actually these two notes here. And then right hand is playing A, E, A, and C. So we know that we are in A minor. You're not going to see my keyboard today because I'm just going to be going through the first basics of doing this. So, of course, I looked at the first chord and I said, well, I've got to be in A minor. Well, let's not assume that. Let's go to the end chord as well before you assume we are in A minor and not C major. So then we get to this last chord right here, and you see we are definitely in A minor. That is an A and a C and another A. The E is missing, but it doesn't matter. As long as the A and the C are in there, we still are playing an A minor chord. How do I know this? And how do I know I'm not playing an F major chord? Well, I don't have a key signature, for one thing. So I know I have to be in C major or A minor if I'm not in a modal key. And the chord right before it, this goes into music theory. I know this is going to make some brain stop working, because I know a lot of people don't like to talk about theory, but it is really important. This chord right here is an E major chord. E major is the dominant chord in A minor and A major. So we're in A minor for certain. All right, now the next thing that I like to recommend to do, I'm not going to do this for you because I actually can play this piece. It's kind of cheating if I do this, is to just try to sight read through the whole thing, no matter how badly or how well you do at sight reading through it. One of the reasons for this is this will actually aid in your sight reading. It's plain great for getting better at reading music. Now, doing more sight reading as a whole is really good to do, and you can buy sight reading books. You can use sight reading apps. The sight reading app that am always recommending is called sightreadingfactory.com, who just this last week added auto assessment, which means it can listen to your keyboard and tell you if you're doing it right or not. I haven't tested it out. I'm going to have another video testing that because I was really excited to get the email saying that they told me that they have added that in. I just haven't had a chance to look at it. Okay, you've got the beginnings of learning. Next week, I'm going to talk about what to do once you've done that first step of figuring out the key signature, figuring out what the key is, and just sight reading through it and looking at the time signature, of course. We didn't really talk about that. Figure out what timing are we in? Is with 6/8, what does it really feel like? I'm just going to tell you right out. 6/8 is actually in 2. 6 is just an easier way of subdividing triplets than putting something in 2/4 time. So this piece could have been written in 2/4, but 6/8 is just a much easier way to compose something this way, especially when pretty much all of the eighth notes are triplets. So if you have any questions or you want anything specific for me to talk about next week on it, let me know. I haven't made that video yet, so I can always add something else new into it. And if you have any comments about what I've talked about so far or questions, please also put them in the comments. Let me know what you think. Or if you would like some extra suggestions of books, or if you have some books you're using and you want my opinion on those books, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks, and see you next week.